Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to Quechee, Vermont in our farmhouse project. Today, we're installing garage doors and garage door openers, also taking you on a tour of the Coolidge birthplace. It's a wonderful Vermont farmhouse with the extensions in the back, and an update on our internet features. Stick around, it's good to have you home again. Let's get started with Gary and Earl Raymond from Claremont Glassworks, and they're going to be installing our garage doors, which are, a little bit unusual because we have this radius or arched top, and very often people are intimidated by what kind of garage door we can put there. Hi, fellas. How are you?
Hi, Bob.
Hi. Now, you've got a wooden garage door going in here, right? Who makes this?
Clopay.
Clopay.
And it's their reserve collection.
Yeah. Now, they also make beautiful cedar doors and natural wood products, but in this case, we've got a painted door specified by the architect. So what wood is it made out of?
This is hemlock.
Hemlock, okay. And it comes in 3 sections?
Yes.
And the center section is very plain, and then the bottom section...
Bottom section is glass, has the glass in it.
And the arch in it. How do you get started installing it?
First step, we put this rubber seal on the bottom of the bottom panel.
Now, do you glue it, or...?
No, we use a regular roofing nail, usually aluminum or a galvanized nail. Attach it right across.
And space them how off?
I usually go about 3 inches apart. I usually go about every 3 inches or so. And after we get the rubber on the bottom, the next step is to attach the hinges to this, and then we start stacking the panels.
Okay.
These reserve collections, Bob, they also they'll custom build any door to your specifications.
So this is probably the most important feature. At the bottom of the door, you really want to keep out the wind-driven rain and the snow and the melt, and this is the interface with the concrete slab. Now, what about the hardware for the door?
We've got it all laid out here, so we can just take it as we need it and go ahead and put it on. We've got the bottom brackets, and then the hinges that go on the top. The first row of hinges for the top of the bottom panel, and then the second ones. And
it's a lot easier if you lay everything out first.
And it comes with a heavy-duty torque springs, right?
Torsion springs. That's the way it was ordered, yes.
All right, so the first step then is to put the bottom pieces on, right?
Yes.
Let me give you a hand moving that down. All right, so we'll flip it over.
Sure. Just like that. They use these screws here with the red are for anything that's got have pressure on it from the springs. They're a tempered screw.
Tempered steel. Now, are these pre-marked?
Yes.
The first hinges have number 1s on them.
And so that's why you don't have to measure anything. Everything's pre-punched and pre-marked for you.
The door panels are pre-punched to let you know where the screw, the hinge goes.
That way the hinge lines up properly for the...
Wait a minute, let me see that. Okay, everything comes from the factory ready to go.
Yep, they have.
So you got proper lineup.
Yep.
Right, go for it. And now?
And now we're going to stand the panel in front of the opening.
Now those are the rollers that go on the track.
That go in the track, correct. Ready? They go to you? Yep. Should be right about there.
So you put the first panel in place and then you start mounting the track.
Yes, we usually set this in place and then we mount the vertical track set it over the first set of wheels and mount this vertical track up. That holds it. One thing you can do with this too, especially with a wood door like this, if your floor is irregular,
Yeah.
you can pattern cut it even.
Scribe it?
Match. Yes.
Yeah.
You can, if it's out of level, you can cut it to match so that it goes up.
But here we're nice and level on this
Yes,
slab.
we're very nice and level here.
Okay,
So we're,
and so you just make sure that the side track is nice and plumb.
right.
And then you add the second panel and fasten the hinges. And so you put your 4-foot level up on the top of the horizontal piece to make sure it's going to be a level installation.
Yes.
Now with the lengths of punched angle attached to the ceiling and securing the track, we're ready to take the third section of the door and put it in place.
To me a little, there you go.
All right, the roller for the top gets inserted first into the track and then attached to the door. Now this final component is probably the most important one in terms of having the door operate easily. It's a torsion spring, right?
Yes, Bob.
And what does it do?
This actually lifts the door. After you attach your opener and stuff, that just controls it. When you push your button, tells it to go up and down.
But when you attach the spring via the cable to the door and wind it up,
Wind these up,
that
yes.
tension is what's going to help you.
The tension lifts the door.
Now, why are you doing that?
That way you can
Put on the
count your...
spring.
Oh, that's right, because you haven't put them
Count
on
your-
yet. And this, of course, is how you put tension on the spring.
Yes. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm almost around again. That makes it 3/4. That's the proper amount of turns for a 7-foot door.
Yeah, well, the spring definitely takes the weight. Now, a few more details like weather stripping, and a little later in the show, we'll put in the garage door opener. It's a handsome door. Next, we'll visit Plymouth Notch, Vermont, to take a look at some extended vernacular farmhouses. We're visiting Plymouth Notch, Vermont. This pastoral hill town with its general store and New England farmhouses is the birthplace of Calvin Coolidge, 30th President of the United States. President Coolidge took the oath of office in this parlor at his boyhood home on August 3, 1923. Since then, the home and the town have been carefully preserved and remain virtually unchanged. So Plymouth Notch is a wonderful place to come and learn about presidential history. Also a great place to look at the vernacular Vermont farmhouse. And this one, the house that Coolidge grew up in, is a great example of how a small farmhouse telescoped out to meet the barn and to beat the cold winters. Let's talk with Tom Visser, who's a professor at the University of Vermont in the Historic Preservation Department. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Bob.
This is a great little house. I love the scale of it. Now, did it grow up in bits and pieces? What we're looking at back here is the original house, right?
Actually, the original part is over here
Oh,
from
okay.
the 1840s. This section was built in the 1870s and then it expanded in the 1890s. If we look over on the left here, we see the main part of the house. What's curious about it is that there's no front door here.
Right.
In the 1890s, they added on this 2-story bay window.
Okay.
The front door is actually just around the corner.
Around the corner. And then some of the elements that you see here are quite unusual. When we think about shutters on windows, we think of them as flat against the wall as decorative items, but here they're kind of all bumping into each other.
These are functional shutters, and these were put on in the 1890s with louvers, and often they were actually closed during summer days to keep the sun out, to keep it cooler.
Sure. What sort of stone is this at the foundation?
This has a wonderful schist foundation. It's a stone that breaks very easily, and it's local to the area.
So the front porch, the door leads directly into the kitchen, and this would have been the kind of the center of life out here in the summertime, right?
This would have been it,
Yeah.
sitting out here under the shade of these trees.
What's the story with these rockers?
Well, these rockers actually go back to the period when Calvin Coolidge was president.
So he actually sat in these.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Now, beyond the front porch and the kitchen and all that, we have more kind of telescoping masses. What goes on in there?
Well, from the kitchen, one would pass into the woodshed, and then from the woodshed go to a workshop, and then from the workshop into the barn.
So that theoretically, in the depth of winter here in February, you never had to go outside. You could go straight to the barn and milk the cow. You could work, you could do anything you needed to without going out into the cold.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
exactly.
Now, the church across the street is quintessential New England.
This is a wonderful example of a 1840 Greek Revival vernacular church. It is simple, and yet, if we look at the details, there's an elegance here.
Yeah, it's got all the classical details of a Greek temple.
Indeed it does. It has 4 columns, if you will, across the front, pilasters.
Yeah, but they're just made up of flat boards. They're not really millwork.
Flat boards, but if you look at the top, they're finished off with a small capital with an echinus molding.
Yeah, beautiful. Can we take a look inside? This is not what you expect of a Gothic Revival church interior.
It's quite surprising.
Well, it's not 1840.
No, no. The interior dates from about 50 years later. It dates from around 1890.
It's wonderful. It's got this incredible enveloping sense and this warmth of the pine.
It does.
Yeah. So this is still a church, right?
Yes, it is.
Not a historic museum.
Well, it is open to the public. It's run by the Coolidge Foundation.
Okay.
And visitors can come and...
And this is where President Coolidge actually sat in church.
right here where it's marked by the flag.
And you've got the original organ and all the furnishings and everything in place. I love this, huh? And right around the corner from the church, we have another great example of a continuous New England farmhouse architecture. Tom, what can you tell us about this place?
Over here on the right, we have the original Cape, the farmhouse that was built in 1823.
Yeah, and look at the way it's connected. I mean, that is quite a I wouldn't call it a cricket. I'm not sure what you'd call it.
It's quite an extension, and it incorporates a roof going both in that direction and this direction.
So you've got a cheek wall with clapboards and metal step flashing into a wooden shingled roof, and then you got another section of roof that's standing seam galvanized steel.
It's quite innovative.
Quite a mess. But then what happens?
Well, if we look all the way down to the end, we find that there is a barn that was actually constructed in 1790 here. Yeah. And then, over the years during the mid-19th century, the various extra units were added to connect the two structures.
Sure.
So we have the workshop, and then the privy, and then the woodshed, and then we get right out to the barn over here on the left.
And at the end, we might as well have a chicken coop, right?
Exactly, Bob. And note the small doors for the chickens right down here by the foundation.
What, no doghouse?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I understand there's also an interesting house to look at right in Quechee.
That's right.
Now we're back in Quechee, and we're looking at a classic federal period house, right?
That it is.
Somewhat in disrepair.
This is the Birch Udall house that was constructed in 1785, locally known as the Theron Boyd House. What's so remarkable about it is that it is a survivor. It has gone through very, very few changes since it was first constructed over 200 years ago.
So are these the original windows and the original siding?
This is the original siding, the original nails from over 200 years.
And I believe Theron Boyd was kind of a local hero because he didn't let any developers come near his 40 acres here. But how is it an example of the continuous architecture of Vermont?
Well, we have the main part here, but on the rear, there's an 1820s addition that was done in brick.
Well, this is a very elegant addition, or back L. It's beautiful.
This back L was built in the 1820s in the federal style. You see the wonderful row of 4 elliptical arched openings. Inside the first opening was the woodshed, service area, stairs that went up above, and then there are 3 bays for carriages.
And was it originally all 2 stories?
Yes, it was. It was originally a 2-story structure, but in 1936, lightning struck the building, and the top floor on the back burned off.
But essentially what we're looking at down here is the early 1800s, still kind of federal architecture, but in brick.
That's right, and it's a nice example of the connected architecture in the sense that it goes from the main house to a kitchen addition, to a workroom, to a woodshed, and then out to
even a storage room.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Coming up next, we'll be looking at some of the features of our connected home back in Quechee. Our home here in Quechee, Vermont is a connected home. We're going to have wonderful internet access and all sorts of other capabilities. Tim Woods is here from the Internet Home Alliance to explain a little bit how it works, right?
Sure.
How far along are we?
Well, we're kind of almost all the way there. All of these wires up here represent different systems in the house. These black wires, as you see coming down in here, they're from our 2-way satellite communication.
All right.
Now, basically, they provide our entertainment, they provide our internet access, and as you see, they come into the panel here. This is our video amplifier unit.
Why so many?
Well, because you're doing high definition, you're doing broadband capable entertainment, and you're also doing internet access. That's why you've got so many of those.
Right, so you got 3 major functions right there.
Exactly. And then what happens is all of these black cables right here are coming from the different rooms. That's our 2+2, our home runs, which included Ethernet and coax. Now when they come into the board, we distribute that back out to the system here, which means that we can share data, we can share DVD movies from the living room into our bedroom if we want to.
So we could be watching movies on screens in 2 or 3 locations.
Absolutely. And now here we have our telephony. This is all our phone lines coming in. Now you see one phone line coming in, but this is the distribution that's going out through the rest of the house.
Okay.
Right here, this is our security interface. This is in case something would happen, an emergency, it would dial out for us. Right here, now this is our router. This is where
this whole thing
this
here.
whole thing is our router. And you can see right here, we've got the different rooms that are labeled up here. This is for data distribution and for internet access. It allows us to surf the web from anywhere in the house. It'll tie in with our wireless system as well. And we'll be able to share all of that information coming in from our 2-way satellite.
Fantastic. So what other features are already installed around the house?
Well, we've got a couple of eye centers that are hooked up. Those are tied in with the ADT security system.
Okay. And the security system is in place and intimidating.
Yeah, well, it represents a lot. We've got motion sensors, we've got heat sensors in the kitchen, all kinds of different things. I mean, this house is...
And a backup battery, great.
And a backup battery.
All right, we still have a ways to go. Thanks, Tim.
No problem.
Go to bobvila.com to learn more about making your home a connected home. Get the safety on here. All right, the pin is on and it's engaged. Final adjustment. That controls the travel. Want to test it?
Watch your head, Bob.
Nice job.
Thanks, Bob.
It is a 2-car garage though. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We're running out of time. Come home again next week. We're going to be installing kitchen plumbing and appliances. We're going to be looking under the kitchen sink and talking about installing a garbage disposer. And we're also going to look at some historic houses here in Vermont. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. For lots of information and resources for your home improvement project, check out my website at bobvila.com.